I think Brick Lane is the real representation of UK fashion. You see the sambas, you see shorts, you see jeans, you see everything in Brick Lane.
Hi, and welcome back to Overheard on Social by The Go Agency. This is the podcast that brings you a mix of social media news, creator marketing tips, and pop culture, as well as just interesting chats with interesting people. Today we have another of our Let's Talk episodes where we focus on a specific vertical, and today we're talking about fashion. So I'm very excited to delve into this. We've got two great guests. We've got Emmanuel, an influencer and presenter. We've got David Philpott from our strategy team, and of course my regular co-host Matthew Wyatt. Matt, to start off, firstly, do you have a fact?
I do have a fact.
Yeah.
So in English high society, they loved, I don't know when this was, but they loved to imitate and copy Alexandra, the Princess of Wales, in the 19th century. Okay. After she procured a limp and a bout of rheumatism, people began to adopt a fake limp as a fashion trend.
Wow. So Alexandra was like the first influencer of fashion. Okay.
But I suppose less sort of clothing and more body movement.
Right. Okay.
It was fashionable to move with a limp.
Yeah. Great. Well, on that, let's introduce our guest properly. Emmanuel, I'll maybe start with you. Could you just tell us a bit about yourself, what you do?
Yes, so my name's Emmanuel. I do fashion content, modeling, and would I add in influencer? I'll add in influencer. I'll be cheeky today. And yeah, I've been doing fashion content for about 2 years on the bop. Fashion is my life, to be honest. Fashion and music and skincare. Smelling good also, I must add.
You look very fashionable. When you walked into the studio, thanks, Matt, for getting up
the thumbs up,
giving him a sniff.
It's not overpowering, but it's really sort of gentle and nice.
Lovely.
So you said like fashion's your life, you know, you love it. Can you tell us about like how you got into fashion? Like early days when you were young, like how did it start?
So my mum was actually a fashion designer. She mainly made like African clothes, like African material and clothes. But when I was younger, I wouldn't say I was the most stylish, if I'm being honest. But then I've been doing content for about 3-4 years. And I told myself I want to get into fashion content, like ask like editorial questions and actually have deeper conversations. So it's so funny. I told myself, if I'm going to do fashion content, I have to make sure I dress good because I don't want anyone in the comments to be like, how's this guy asking questions? So that was actually the catalyst of how I started dressing good. And then since then, it's just been a snowball effect. I've been getting better, finding new brands, finding my style, finding what works for my body, my shape, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And you were telling us that you used to work in IT sales.
Yes. So I did that on the side of doing content. And then I started doing content full time from last year, left my job. And yeah, I'm living the dream.
That's
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So David, on to you as well. Can you just give us a bit of background to your role at GOAT?
Yeah, so I am a senior strategy director. So I help lead up the UK team that focuses on all the sort of strategic and creative and insights-based work that we do with our clients, basically providing them with the sort of like knowledge that we at GOAT have and how it works best for them within influencers.
What's kind of your biggest strategy tips, would you say, that you kind of adopt in your team?
Just make sure you're online, but that you enjoy it. And therefore, you're literally picking up on everything that's going on.
I think some of us are getting to an age where the gap between our generation and the upcoming generations is widening. And we're starting to turn our heads and realize that things are going to be happening in corners of the internet that we're not participating in.
Yeah.
That is really important for us to know at GOAT to then feed into what brands should be doing, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But like, I'm panicking about
He's
that.
worried he's not going to have a job in 5 years.
Luckily, I'm not panicking because we've got 20 people on the team. So that means that you're hiring people that understands every area of social, every area of, culture and influencers. So whilst I may not be on, Pinterest as much as somebody else, we'll have a strategist that knows the depths and the ins and outs of everything that happens on that platform and the community that follows it. So they can then bring that to the proposals that we do, to the clients who need it, and then also educate us as a team.
And then what about you, your fashion background and story? How did you get into it?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not as stylish as the man next to me.
Stop it.
For me, I'd say it's more about, like, as I said, the cultural zeitgeist of it. I just love understanding, like, what brands are doing, how it's shaping what we see online, the celebrities and influencers that they're picking up, And then how that in tune basically shapes culture for that year, the trends, the styles. It basically can really all stem a lot of the time from these major fashion houses and the shows that they put on. And I just love like almost understanding and sort of picking it apart.
My understanding of fashion is from The Devil Wears Prada. You know, the bit where
Great example.
Stanley Tucci goes, that blue jumper you're wearing, well,
Yeah.
it's trickled down into the discount bin.
That was Meryl Streep.
Okay.
Well, Matt, I was going to ask you what's your fashion background?
Today
Or
I'm
it
wearing
is that.
a t-shirt that I found in a cupboard at work. I'm looking for some tips today. I liked what you said about sort of growing into or learning what's right for your body and stuff like that. I think everyone has their own distinct style. And it's an art form. It's just one that I don't give much attention to.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Maybe
yet.
after today.
Yeah.
So we are here to talk about fashion generally. The reason also we chose this topic for this month is because it's Fashion Week or Fashion Month. So I think we're in the middle of New York Fashion Week currently as we speak.
Oh, is it always a fashion week somewhere?
Oh, no. It happens twice a year.
Yeah.
So it would be spring, summer, autumn, winter. But your spring, summer would happen in the autumn, winter because it's about the fashion houses coming with what they see the trends to be for the next season.
Got it. And because there's the four big ones,
4 big ones.
they all have to happen in the same sort of period.
Exactly. So I believe it happens every week back on back. So you would have New York, London, Paris, and Milan.
So, well, just as a kickoff question, who are your favorite designers, or not necessarily even designers? It could be luxury, or it could just be stores, Zara or Mango, you know?
For me right now, I would say Bottega. The vintage, especially their older stuff, but just how they go about, even the marketing of it, down to the little details, it's what every person wants. I don't think they do anything wrong, which is very hard to say for a brand.
For me, I love everything that's coming out of Spain, both the sort of streetwear stuff and the high-end things. There's, brands like Scuffers and Nude Project, which are sort of emerging streetwear brands. They're really taking over and the styles are really cool, but on a sort of high-end level, I think Loewe is doing amazing stuff. They, to me, are the brand that stands out the most by far on social, specifically TikTok, because they have adopted such an easy strategy to execute, which is to find what trends are working, find niche influencers that have that sort of like niche community, and they adopt them, bring them on, and then find a way to take that trend and infiltrate their products. And it just makes people react really strongly online because it's almost as though you're finally being seen. Something I thought was this niche interest is finally seen by the masses.
Do you own any Loewe products?
Sadly not.
Out of your price range?
Out of my price range, not to be that guy, but because I'm vegan, I can't also buy anything leather, and all the best things are leather.
Yeah. Are there any good like leather alternatives nowadays or not really?
I think the only major brand that I can think of that's doing vegan leather is Stella McCartney. I think they're a fully vegan brand because obviously she is vegan, and that is a good option if you are vegan. If you don't want to buy leather, then Stella McCartney's your girl.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, Emmanuel, when it comes to the content you create, like what kind, as a content creator online, an influencer in this space, like what kind of content are you doing and what are you finding that your audiences are like really responding to?
So a lot of the content I do like my own outfits and my own what I'm wearing and edits, and a lot of it is interviews where I'm interviewing people, asking them a lot of questions. One of my best questions till date is there a difference between fashion and style? And I think it's an interesting question because everyone has their own perspectives on things. If someone has style, to someone is fashion. If someone has fashion, to someone is style. So there's actually not a right or wrong answer. But a lot of people, especially the younger generation, are actually growing into fashion and finding their style, I would say at a much younger age. And I feel like that's influence of like Gen Z parents and parents being more open to their kids finding their own sort of fashion sense and themselves much earlier. And I think that's a catalyst of social media in general. You see a lot of kids making content and expressing themselves just like adults. Another thing to add to that as well is a lot of the smaller brands which are coming up, what they do really well is storytelling. And storytelling for brands now, I would say, that's the moneymaker, because people are no longer trying to get that sexy Louis bag or the Gucci jacket. They actually want to understand, oh, this brand came up. I've seen them from the beginning. I've seen their story. I've seen them with the manufacturer. I've seen their design process. They feel like they're a part of it. They feel like they're a family. And that is the shift, I would say, in fashion. People are no longer worshipping the big brands as they did once before. It's now, okay, this brand's actually nice. I'd rather spend money on a brand which I can relate to instead of a big house of brands. So it's really changing, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I think I've seen that as well, that it's less about like, oh, I just want a Louis Vuitton bag because it's Louis Vuitton. If I don't have like a connection to that brand or they're not culturally relevant at the time, then it doesn't have the same power anymore. Do you think influencer marketing has had that massive impact where there's less power in those brands, those historic like big names, and it's influencer marketing has helped to kind of create more awareness of smaller brands?
Yeah, I definitely think the point on power and if brands have the power versus, you know, creators or influencers or the people making the news, I would definitely say it has shifted because I think it was the publicist, you know, Kelly Cutrone from The Hills. I think it was a couple of fashion weeks ago. She said, what's out this season is influencers, right? But clearly the fashion houses have not gotten that memo. More than ever, we're seeing that, you know, fashion houses are having them front row, they're having them in their content, they're relying on them to share as much as possible because ultimately these are the people setting the trends now. They're the ones that are sharing the story of what the brand is, what their brand vision is, what they want for their next year to be. And it can't now just rely on whatever the brand puts out there from their own channels. It has to have and rely on these voices to almost tell that story.
I don't know anything about fashion, but I was in bed last night and my wife, weird to say, my wife was scrolling this sort of fashion interview series. It's obviously a creator going up to normal people in the street and they were talking about their fashion items.
Yeah.
And I got hooked just watching this and I thought the creativity is amazing. It was talking a lot about these high-end brands, but it was vintage stuff. So it was like a Louis V bag, but if it's vintage and it's cool, I had a point on that. I can't remember what it was. No.
Well, how do you think that influencers have impacted the way that fashion, luxury fashion specifically, used to feel quite exclusive? And it used to be very like, you know, fashion weeks were kind of closed doors and it was all these fashion experts. Would you say that influencers and social media have like opened those doors a lot more?
Yeah, I would say they've opened the floodgates of heaven. I feel like I'm a fashion influencer. I do content and people who know me would be able to relate to me in a better way. It'd be better to have, you know, multiple influencers who people can relate to and have their own story than having just one big hitter because only a certain few people are going to relate. So with brands working with influencers, they are now shaping which everyone does because I could wear something and a lot of people message me, oh, where'd you get this bag from? You guys may think, oh, this guy dresses so good, but I see a lot of influencers and they dress very similar, if not better than me. So it's almost like a snowball effect of influencers and how they actually influence the influencers.
Yeah. Do you agree?
I definitely think that social has caused this more so than ever. Obviously, you start off with celebrities. It's now important for a celebrity to be, you know, partly aspirational, but now they need to be attainable. They need to be on social media. They need to be creating content that's telling us what they're doing on their holiday. And therefore, they need to be personable. And this then leads us into influencers, right? They are the exact same. We want to aspire to their style, but they need to be even more personable because they are like an everyday person on the street. You might actually run into them. You're not going to run into Kylie Jenner, right?
No.
I think
that's they have to be like ordinary and attainable.
Yeah.
Like that is the power of influencer, and it like works so well in this particular industry.
Do you think they have to be ordinary and attainable though? Because I do think there is a balance between like, yes, some people want, you know, they love like a Molly May because she feels a little bit more relatable than a Beyonce. Because you're right, like I love Beyonce, but I'm never going to be Beyonce, and she's almost just so out of this world. Whereas Molly May, you're like, oh yeah, she, you know, she's a bit more relatable. But then also sometimes in fashion, I still want to follow those high-end creators as well, just for inspiration, and it's like fun as well. Yeah
100%. But I would also say that brands need to realize that they need influencers for that attainability, because if you are only showing your latest collection on models and celebrities, one, I don't know who the model is. I know the celebrity, but I'll never be them and I'll never be the model. Whereas if I am seeing this one bag being worn by 5 of my favorite people that I follow specifically because their style is great and I sort of get inspiration from their style, I'm more likely to buy that. Yeah. I would honestly say that's why Labubu is where it is. because
Le Boo, those creepy dolls.
genuinely, I think it's down to influencers. I think you could easily start by saying, yes, the sort of bag charm thing started in Asia, but somebody like Miu Miu would have been the first brands to bring that sort of style to the likes of the UK and the US. But therefore, influencers picked this up. They started wearing the Miu Miu with the Miu Miu charms, but the everyday person cannot afford to buy the Miu Miu charms. So what they do is they look elsewhere for what's the next best thing. And Labubu, I think, jumped on this trend, started to sell these £20 ones versus a £300 charm. And that's exactly what I did. I've now got 3 charms from My Neighbor Totoro because I wanted to be involved in this trend that influencers made huge. Exactly, you know it. But I would never be able to get, nor would I want to spend my money on the Miu Miu charms.
So we're basically talking about a huge power dynamic shift between like the high-end fashion brands that used to tell us what we should buy, whereas now it's kind of like that comes from the culture of the streets or like the people.
Literally.
Like it's been inverted.
How has it flipped? Would you say that when it comes to fashion trends, is Fashion Week as relevant anymore?
Ooh, good question. I would say what makes Fashion Week still relevant is still the level of exclusivity. Not everyone can go there, and the names that are there are big names, influencers which are starting to take over those big names, and a lot of consumers actually live through the influencers and they get to see everyone's part of it. I'm going to Milan Fashion Week at the end of the month, and what I would post and how I would relate to it would be completely different to someone else. My audience would see it through my lens. And when you get multiple lenses, it's better to have that as sort of like a pie chart than having just one big hitter. It's almost like a pyramid where you get your A-listers to big celebrities and you get your influencers and you get so on and so forth. But from a branding perspective, I feel like traditionally they've always gone to the A-listers thinking this is a big name, this will have a big influence. But now they're realizing they're throwing a lot of money on a wall. It's not bringing the result which they normally used to get. Now, instead of getting one big hitter, get multiple influencers who are in this cycle and have that as an influence. I'll give you an example. I recently did a campaign for Cheetos, and a lot of the people who did the campaign were all my friends who are all fashion influenced in the fashion world. So brands are starting to pick up and realizing if we get this group of people who are in similar niches or have similar styles, that's more effective than just spending 1 million on a big person. And it's more effective, and it's definitely working because the results show.
Yeah.
Can I ask about Milan Fashion Week? So you've been invited to go to Milan Fashion Week. What is that experience like for you? What are you going out to create? How are you doing it?
So to be transparent, I've never been to Milan Fashion Week before. I'm actually going with Hypebeast for a Hugo Boss show. So I'm doing some interviews and content there. And whenever I do interviews, I always hear Milan's one of the best dressed in the world, vintage, very old school. So it'll be good to see if it's actually true. That's one thing. But I feel like me going as an influencer and also a host would be good for people who've never been to see things through my lens. They'll be like, oh, wow, maybe Milan is nice, or based on how I do.
Are you going to be honest though? What if it's shit? What if it's like you get there and you're like, these grannies like look horrible?
100%. I was in New York last month for about a month, and I was in Soho, and I'm like, how is this the best dress? They can't really dress. And a lot of New Yorkers were
shots
very,
fired for our US team there.
Yes, a lot of the New Yorkers weren't happy about it. But when I did go to Lower East Manhattan, they did dress really good there. But initially I did say they can't dress, and a lot of people were triggered. But
who are the best dressed in the world, do you think?
In the world, I haven't been, but from off my head, I would have to say Tokyo.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Really?
Been there, and it's by far the best dressed place I've ever seen.
Could you tell us what it is? Because I've never been, and I always hear like what they would wear on a normal day would be a runway outfit, and that's normal.
What?
I would almost say it's like a collection of different styles and communities. It's kind of similar to what you might find in London, but on a more curated level. So before I went to Tokyo, I was in Seoul, and everyone in Seoul is so immaculately dressed, but they all have almost like a uniform. It's very much the similar haircuts. Everything is sort of beige and blacks, and it's all very clean cut. And then we thought, well, this must be the best dressed place in the world. Then you go to Tokyo, and everywhere that you look is a different style. You've got goths, and you've got that sort of arcade appearance. Then you've got the sort of like Harajuku girly style. And it just feels as though they don't really hold back, nor do they really care but they also really put an effort in where everything's just so meticulously planned, and it's just great.
Yeah. What would you say the British style is now? Do we have one?
Do we have one? I think the style of this decade, because you know when you look back and you think, oh, it's easy to understand what the style was from last decade, and you always think, oh, I would never be able to pinpoint now. I would almost say the most 2020 style is that sort of like diesel, jaded London, Acne Studios, distressed denim, mud everywhere.
Crop top.
That kind of vibe is what I almost think is the decades of the Western style.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could pinpoint exactly what the UK is though.
There's different areas in London. Like if you go to Soho, it would be very clean and
Emily on
sort
door.
of, yes, exactly. Emily on door, a bit too sexy. But then you go to Brick Lane, which I film in quite a lot, and it's literally everything. Multiple fits, different variations. I think Brick Lane is the real representation of UK fashion. You see the sambas, you see shorts, you see jeans, you see everything in Brick Lane. But in terms of an actual uniform, I would definitely say it's more streetwear in this day and age. Baggy denim, big hoodies, baggy.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's going. But then you also have another side of people who dress very preppy and clean. And
is tweed going to make a comeback?
I hope not.
I don't think so.
No. Very normcore, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of hiking, that sort of aesthetic.
I mean, I was a teenager in the sort of 2010s or like 2000, and I'm like, some of the stuff we wore, I look back on
style.
peplum skirts,
Jack Wills.
the tops. Jack Wills was a big thing. Any sort of bodycon skirt, that was like the vibe. And I think those things, I'm hoping they don't make a comeback. They were awful.
But do you know how we look back at the way that we dressed and we go, wow, that was such an era.
Yeah.
Is it true that now there's sort of this mishmash of, when you look at Gen Z as an older person, you go, like, it's almost anti-fashion. But now that anti-fashion has sort of been turned into a style that we recognize and we understand more. But like, how do we define what's going on now where it's sort of everything all at once?
It's tough. It's almost like a pie chart. I think there's different areas in fashion where there's people who dress normal, like the normal everyday people. Then you have the influencers who dictate what normal is, because what they wear is what people aspire to be. So if everyone aspires to be that, then if they can't get exactly that because of the price or whatever catalyst it is, there's like a crumb effect where they get the sort of the little bits of what they have, and then everyone slowly, like the Moo Labubu effect is, you
it's
can't
like the
get that.
tastemakers, right? Yeah, they're kind of the ones who are like setting what is trendy in a way, and that trickles down a bit, like you mentioned, Devil Wears Prada. Less so, I guess it comes from the fashion houses still a little bit, but then it trickles down to the creators, the influencers, the tastemakers, and then that sort of trickles down to everyday people to some extent as well.
In the 90s or earlier, the fashion houses would be the ones to set the sort of styles, and then you would have to rely on the likes of Vogue and Elle to be the ones to publish it and bring it to the masses. Instead, I would say that the fashion houses still create the trends and the styles that are going to be here for the next year, but it's the influencers that now share it to the masses. That's why these sort of houses really need to lean on these influencers to be able to capture it, be at the front row of their shows, and basically just share it to millions and millions, because they have that incredible reach that, Vogue perhaps doesn't quite. Of course, they have a great channel where they have lots of followers, but if you take 10 big influencers, multiple sort of micros, you have a much greater strategy to be targeting lots of different communities that Vogue would not be able to teach.
Yeah.
Reach.
And that's kind of what influencer marketing is all about, really, isn't it? Is that it's that idea that, like you said, there's so many different types of people who have different style and different interests. And so just creating one like TV campaign and billboard with Beyonce isn't going to necessarily hit for everyone. Whereas if you maybe have your hero campaign with Beyonce as like a bit of your sort of hero celebrity face, but then you've got loads of influencers who are the ones who actually then take that message in their own way to different people. That's kind of what everything we do is about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that
Everything you do.
tiering and that layering of influencers that can reach X amount of people.
Yeah.
The brand obviously wants to reach multiple different age groups and communities and interests, and that's what we would do at
Kind
Go.
of the only way to do it, right? Even if like you take an industry like gaming, it's the same principle. You take the gaming influencers that are big on Twitch. It's the only way to do it.
I thought it was interesting how you said you did a campaign for Cheetos, and I know you've worked with Goat on some campaigns for brands. So you're more a sort of fashion lifestyle creator, but you're then working for like a food, you know, you're doing content for a food brand. So how does that work, and why do you think it also works for non-fashion brands to still work with fashion influencers?
I feel like fashion is the one thing which is forever. People always want to dress good, smell good, or look good. Those three things.
Well, apart from that. I'm kidding.
Even in an apocalypse. That is just one question. We have a zombie apocalypse tomorrow. Are you still going to be dressing like that?
100%.
Yeah.
I'd have
For
a tie.
real?
I'd have a tie, make sure my watch is on.
Get that white
everything,
chocolate,
clean shave,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost like an aesthetic for everything, right? I'm about to go to Yosemite. I don't like hiking, but I've bought all the clothes to make me look good whilst hiking, because if I look the part, maybe I'll actually enjoy it a bit more.
Yeah.
So I've got my Gramiche, the Arc'teryx, you know, like the Salomons ready
Well,
to
I'm
go.
not even really into fashion like you guys are. Like a lot of the brand names you've mentioned, I'm not gonna lie,
I think you're making
didn't know
some of them
them.
up.
But
No.
but even I went on a safari a couple of years ago, and I went and bought like a lot of animal print dresses and
course
things
you did.
because I was like, I'm going on safari. I need to like
Embody it.
You know, I need to embody that part kind of thing. And yeah.
So what's
it's
your
a
zombie
lifestyle.
apocalypse fit?
My zombie apocalypse fit. Oh, it would be
Distressed
raw,
jeans.
raw denim, raw baggy denim, a nice bomber, like black bomber, maybe about blank or AOD cap, and some black loafers. Clean.
David?
Good shout. I think I'd have to go for a bit of camo. Need to blend into my environment. I would go for a bit. I'm going to keep the Salmons. I want to run fast, so I'm going to go for
Utility.
my.
Smart.
That's it.
That's
That's
Fashion
for the
meets
drip.
utility.
It's about. That's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what those sort of holidays we're talking about, where you wouldn't go to the beach and dress in jeans. You want to fit, yes, with the environment, but you still want to look good. It's the exact same if you're going on a safari, you're going hiking, and that's exactly where fashion almost comes in and takes the spotlight.
Maybe one area of fashion I can speak on is like, I'm a big runner, right? And growing up, you went to and bought the ugliest tracksuit that you could find and the ugliest trainers. Whereas now you've got like acid running, you've got a plethora of brands that are making genuinely like really delightful stuff.
Yeah.
You could spend all your money just on running and athletic wear.
The whole aesthetic, the glasses, the little watch, the shoelaces, the socks,
The bright pink
yeah,
shoes.
everything. Just trying to make it as sexy as possible.
And you're right, like fashion, I think it does feed into everything because like you say, exercise, I'm more likely to want to go to the gym if I've got some nice workout clothes because it makes me feel a little bit more like, I'm ready for the gym. You know, wearing nice things to the office kind of makes you feel a bit more ready for work. And so, but going back to the stuff you did with the food brands, like what kind of content were you creating for them?
So that was, are we talking about the Cheetos one?
Yeah.
So the Cheetos, they had a concept where they had a new flavor launching in UK, and they did a collab with this artist called Navinda, and he had the t-shirt, and what you basically had to do in the brief is carry your pack of Cheetos to a corner shop, take it there, and in some way the dust of the Cheetos they call it Cheetos, I think, and you had to sort of wipe it on your shirt in a sense. So it was bringing the gap between food and fashion in a sense, which is the art of the t-shirt, but also making Cheetos the main part of the campaign. So I would say it's like subtle selling. It's not too salesy. It's pushing onto what I do best, which is fashion and the number of people they reach out to. And I feel like brands that know how to do that, the effects it would have is worth it. I'm not sure if you know this lady on TikTok. She's like an auntie and she just stays
Auntie
with
Bemi.
the buses. Yes. And she's done a lot of big collabs with, who did she do it with? Jacquemus?
Yeah, Jacquemus. And she's done a recent one as well with another big brand. I can't remember who
I think it was Burberry.
Yeah,
On a
yeah.
Burberry bus.
Yeah.
So things like that, where if you're in a niche, brands are trying to leverage that. They could have easily gotten with the budget any big Lewis Hamilton or ASAP Rocky or whatever, but they're realizing this person has an audience. It's better to push on to what they're good at than someone who is just over and beyond the reality of rappers or celebrities. And I think even their effects is no longer as big as it used to be because of social media. Now I could be an ASAP Rocky to someone in a sense, and someone's an ASAP Rocky to me. It may not be him. It could be someone who's into fashion who I deem to be high in that area.
Yeah.
And I think that's just completely changed the landscape, and the power of social media is not spoken about enough, I don't think. It's so powerful. Like there's kids who are making content and I'm just like, wow, I wish I was doing mine earlier.
Do you think it's important for a brand when they're working with an influencer agency for that brand to have an agency that's got a strategy team? Like, do you think it's such an essential part to the process?
100%. You don't want your teams to be spread thin, right? You want your account managers to be able to handle the comms and build that relationship with the client and then leave the thinking to us, let us do the research, build that entire thing up, and then hand that over to the team, like the campaigns team that can then execute it. It's that entire phase that helps you build it, execute it, and then run the campaign and keep that nice relationship with the influencers and the client that ultimately makes it the best agency.
Yeah, because I think if you've got a creative team that's too bogged down doing admin-y or like
100%.
everyday stuff, then they're not going to have the time to do the thing that they're meant to be doing, which is coming up with the strategy and the creative. You've got to have like space for that, I think.
100%. I've met people in this industry who have heard that we are dedicated strategists, dedicated creatives, and they have said, oh, I usually do everything. We do the insights, we do the creative, we build the proposals, we do the design, we run the campaigns. And I think, how do you have any time to even just be on social?
So in a good way, you are a one-trick pony.
I hope not. No.
In a good way. You know,
in a good way, I'm a one-trick pony.
Instead of a jack of all trades, you're a master
specialist.
of one.
You're a specialist.
Sharpened dagger.
Yeah.
Strategy dagger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're strategic experts.
How do you
Strategic
find
experts.
that as a creator? Because you're having to constantly be thinking of new content you want to create. But like, how do you come up with it? How do you make sure that you balance like what you need to do that you've already signed up to brands with like fresh thinking? Do you have a system?
To be honest, it's hard. It's almost like you're always chasing something. You do something good, and there's a new trend, and then it slowly fades out and there's a new one. So even when you do something good, if it is good, a lot of people will then copy it, and then now it's no longer a USP. So you have to always keep on chasing. But I mainly look online. As I said, chronically online is being the main thing of seeing what's actually out there, what are people liking, what are people engaging with, and understanding the insights. I feel a lot of people or creators sometimes get bogged down by using the views as the only metric, as opposed to actually having a meaningful conversation where people actually engage. And I think that's more important, as I'm sure you know, than just trying to get 1 million views and having 10
And vanity
comments.
metrics.
Yeah.
Those audiences who understand the niche will always be dedicated to that. If I post any different fashion question, is all similar cross verticals, I would say. And people who are lovers of fashion, they love anything to do with it. They all want to know and they all want to talk about it.
More people are looking to creators and influencers that have got kind of credibility and interest in that space. Like if you're really into fashion, you're going to be interested in that content, and it's better to maybe have a creator or an influencer that's got that really dedicated audience that loves their content than sometimes mass creators that don't necessarily have that. Would you find that as well?
I often look to female creators for fashion style and then try to tailor that to maybe more of like a male aesthetic. There's one person I love called Olivia Hurst. She's the one that put me onto the whole bag charm aesthetic. Every time I, want to do an activity and I need to think about a specific outfit, I'll look to her as almost something as that inspiration. But she doesn't have 1 million followers. She doesn't have 500,000 as far as I'm aware, but she has that real dedicated following. You can see it in the comment section, and that goes back to that sort of vanity metrics of, yes, you may be reaching 1 million people, but are people actually engaging with the content for the right reason? Or are they asking you about something else you're wearing? Are they actually learning about the product that you're trying to sell? And therefore, looking at things like sentiment actually helps you do that. And I would often say that there's specific influencers that really know how to curate a piece of content to make the actual objective happen.
How do you sort of measure the success of like when you've posted a piece of content? What is it? Is it like a vibe that you get that you think something did well, or do you look at the metrics?
When I'm editing the content and the questions and I'm going through it, I think that is the main thing, having an authentic conversation with someone. And I also look at replay value of what the person said. Is there can people learn from that? Is there a message in that where people could help their life or change their life? And I get a lot of messages on that. And also how people are engaging with it on my page. I used to only use my views as a metric, but then I slowly came to the realization that the views are just a trophy.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 10 people who are engaging in it and actually learning or taking something back than me having 1 million views and it's just like 2 comments and people just like what the person said as opposed to the actual message.
Yeah, exactly. And for brands, I imagine that's a thing where it's like, if we say, oh yeah, we delivered, we gave you 2 million impressions on this campaign, but it's not actually done anything because no one really was engaging with it, or they might have watched it, but it didn't spark any creativity or inspiration for the people watching it. Yeah.
Unless you're like in the industry, a lot of brands are, I would say, uneducated. They just see views and numbers and feel this person's got 500k followers, let's work with them, without actually understanding, well, this person may have the followers, but they're not in that niche. So they end up, I would say, losing value by working with people who are not credible in that industry. And I would say it actually can damage a brand. So should brands align with their strategy? Let's say Burberry would obviously want to work with fashion designers, stylists, etc. Or should they just focus on numbers with people who have big numbers on socials?
No, I think like differentiate it. Just make sure that you're choosing people that you know are going to drive the best sort of results you can. Not necessarily from like a viewpoint, but sentiment. I always think that like sentiment is one of the best things, like the shares, making sure that people are actively engaging online and love the content you're putting together. So don't just focus on views and, the reach and the frequency and all this thing. Think about, the sentiment. Are people actually going to be loyal to your brand? Do they want to keep coming back? Do they have a good perception of your brand from the people they work with?
Can I just also say, for these brands, it must be quite hard for the people at the top who probably don't understand what is going to work.
Yeah.
To give the decisions to the internal brand people that are like, look, I know you don't have any idea why this...
Like a 23-year-old, marketing exec. And like they almost have to go to them to be like, I've got to trust you a little bit.
100%.
We work with a German company whose product sounds very much like a phrase that a popular influencer says. They go, they say this one thing.
Yeah. Bosh.
And they came back and were like, why would we collaborate with someone that says this thing that sounds like our brand? And it's just like, you clearly don't understand that is a perfect like synergy there.
Yeah, we've sort of coined that type of strategy as irrelevant relevance. I think the best example, and sorry to use celebrities as the example rather than influencers, when CeraVe contracted Michael Cera, right? It's in the name, literally. It worked incredibly well because people love campaigns pushing the boat out. They love seeing a bit of fun. They love seeing that they're happy to almost, have a bit of a test, see if it works. Don't just think what is guaranteed to give me 1 million views. Try things that's going to actually impact culture and get you into the zeitgeist.
Stuff gets forgotten. Something with 1 million views, with no engagement and no sentiment, like you said.
Exactly.
But something memorable, you will talk about like the best campaigns that you see.
It's almost like, it sounds like there's 2 options and strategies that brands need to take, which is one, finding those kind of really credible influencers and creators, people like yourself who really understand if they're looking for fashion, people that really get it and can really speak to those audiences. Or it's finding these kind of slightly unexpected random ones like Auntie Bemi, where you're like, why is this random, woman who we don't even see her outfits, I don't think, in the videos. Why is she doing an ad for Jacquemus? But then it was so funny. And she's also kind of related because it's that relevance thing where you're like, well, she's a kind of London iconic character. They were opening a pop-up in London. So like it does kind of still fit the narrative. I think it's like brands need to do those too. And they probably need to do more of that credible side, but then leave room to experiment and just do the sort of unexpected sometimes to keep people talking.
Definitely.
Are they doing enough of that, do you think? Or would we urge brands to like start doing weirder, more eccentric stuff?
It's a hard one. I would still say most brands are afraid to do the wild stuff. It was, I remember when I was only a year into Go and TikTok was just becoming a thing. We used to have to persuade brands to use TikTok because it was new and they didn't know if it would work. And now everyone is on TikTok. It's the number one platform in the world. It's the best for discovery. It's the best for trends, for setting the styles.
Have a stat.
Please go.
London Fashion Week, hashtag London Fashion Week, or hashtag LFW had over 1.5 billion views on TikTok as of 2025, which is insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Should I give you some more? 2024, over 60% of brands at London Fashion Week worked with influencers as part of their marketing strategy, which is probably going to go up. Influencer-led posts from Fashion Weeks generate up to 4 times higher engagement rate than brand-only content.
That's a really good stat.
That is a good stat. God, you know what? I would say the biggest challenge for brands is to stick to their guns. We have so many brands and clients come to us and say, we want to do something completely different. We want to do something innovative. We then give them that and they go, oh, too much, too far, it's too scary. We want Get Ready With Me. And we go, but you told us you wanted to do something different. So we'll give you the idea and we think this is a perfect strategy for you to do. But then when it comes down to it, I think it scares them off. And we often try to tell our strats that innovation can mean something different to everyone. You might have a brand that has been doing everything on social and pushing out, and therefore they need something ridiculous. You may have a brand that's just starting to use influencers and dabble in it. Therefore, a new platform might be innovative to them. It might be trying a different niche or community. So we can always push that as innovation. But for the brands that come to you and say, we want the wildest thing possible, and when you give them it, stick to it. If you ask for it, then go with it and actually just trust us as the experts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Have you ever found that when you've done brand partnerships, what's kind of a process that works for you? Do they try and script you too much often? Is there often like too much of a brief?
There is normally like a rough guideline, but I think it's better that you work together. Normally they would give me like a guideline, as I said, and I would go about it in my own way and my own way of expressing it. And I think that works better for them because sometimes you know what's better than the brand, but the brands have their own guidelines. They have their own nostalgia of what used to work. And I feel like that's another reason why smaller brands are becoming the new big brands because they have less red tape. It's just one owner. They may have like a small team. They can do these creative skits and ideas. A great band who does it really well, I'm not sure if you know the Schutz.
No.
They do content where all of the fashion content and skits is two or three people who are like characters in this fashion world, and the business is, I would say, 80% of the revenue comes from the skits.
But it's just seeing something different as well, right? If you're going to be the first mover to try something new, most of the time you're going to reap the rewards of that. And then that will be emulated and copied, and then people will be used to it. Yeah. And then someone brave will go, well, I'm going to try this thing.
You need to shock your system. That's what they need to do, shock the system, because people get bored of it and you just lose attention and that's it, it's gone.
Yeah. What do you think of the rise in virtual AI influencers? Do you think that's going to become more of a thing? Do you think it's a threat to people like you?
I don't see it becoming a thing because people want to actually relate to people and have authentic relationships. I have a lot of people who just DM me, where did you get this from? And I'll message them. Whereas if it was someone famous or an AI, you don't have that relationship.
Are you using AI at all, like not for content creation, but maybe as part of your process as an influencer to speed up anything? Or
to be honest, sometimes if I'm lacking ideas for like my interview questions, I would use ChatGPT. But what ChatGPT does, it will give you an idea for a question. That idea may not be good, but that idea will spur another idea, which is better for you.
Yeah, I can't see the replacement of real creators and influencers by virtual influencers. But they have had there are a few successful ones, you know?
I think it's a fad. Unless AI comes out with some breakthrough technology that does something that we can't even envision what it could be, then maybe. But I would say as it stands, it's not human. We connect with humans.
Pull the plug.
We don't connect with a virtual influencer. Sorry.
So to wrap up then, what do you see happening next year between in fashion? Like, what do you think is going to be trending? How do you think creators are going to be using social media? I know that's a massive question, but do you have any thoughts?
I feel like streaming is a really big thing now in general, and brands will start working with influencers to get them to sort of stream it at their events and have each influencer to have their own spin on the event. As technology gets better and advances, I feel like brands are going to be forced to have to leverage with influencers because they no longer can rely on the pull of a Beyonce or Rihanna. They're going to actually have to work on the ground up with the community because the community is the heart of everything.
I think I really love what you said of like, you bring your own perception of something. So like going to Fashion Week as a creator and people will see that Fashion Week through your eyes and your experiences. And I think that's what social media and influencer has given us and why it's so important, I'd say. Yeah. And what about you, Future?
I want to see brands using more of the opportunity around their shows. If they think about it, it's not just about sitting people in the front row. There are so many phases to running something. You should be having your influencers grabbing a mic and running around and interviewing the celebrities, gathering those sort of like viral potential moments. You know, celebrities are a bit more together. Influencers are allowed to have a bit more fun. Like create those moments with celebrities at the pre-show. Have them outside filming and taking interviews as they come in. Have them at the after show. Have them at the dinners. It's really about utilizing everything to capture as much content as possible, get the name out there. So I would love for them to just be doing more of that.
Yeah, I love that. I saw a really good campaign at last year's fashion show and it was for the brand Couples, was it?
Couples? Okay.
Yeah, and they hosted an influencer dinner and it was launching their new bag, their new handbag. And they had two creators who then the next day, one of them posted a TikTok and she was like, oh, I lost my bag. Like one of the other creators took my bag home from the event. Can you guys help me find this influencer?
Right.
So she did this TikTok and it was all like, this was what was in the bag and can you guys help me find the creator? And the TikTok went viral, got like 5 million views. Loads of people were then being like, oh, was it this creator? And then they had another influencer post the next day saying, oh, sorry, that was me. I accidentally took the bag home. Here's what's in it. And then a few days later, they did a meetup where the influencers met up to like hand over the lost bag. It was obviously all planned, but it was so clever. And I thought like, that's a really good way of like, they did something different and they cross-pollinated between the influencers as well, which is really
it's so
cool.
smart. But it's like, it's such a simple
idea
thing to execute. I love it. That's great.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think, Future?
I'm glad you asked me. I think kilts are going to make a big comeback, as well as brogues and bow ties.
Okay, yeah.
Together?
All
together.
All together?
Yeah.
And then the final question, how would you, our fashionistas, style Matthew?
Good question. How tall are you?
Yeah, he's tall.
6'3 3/4.
Wow.
Showing off.
Do you want me to? I can declothe now, so we can work with a blank template.
Okay.
I think with him, I really like Henley t-shirts right now. They're in. I would put a Henley on you, some nice pleated black trousers, and either black loafers, because I just love black loafers, or some Margiela reps. Those would look just clean.
What kind of look? Like preppy?
Preppy clean, because I feel like he has that model look. So that and a nice little like Loire bag or something, and that's clean, or like a Coach bag.
Any jewelry?
Rings, and that's it. You'd have both of your ears pierced or one?
I have both.
Yeah. No, I like this. It's simple. That Loire bag, maybe 2 rings or something. Simple.
I love this. So are we going to go to checkout? Are you going to buy this for me?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Should we cut the cameras?
Yeah. How about you?
I don't
much
know.
the same?
I love the way you dress now.
I actually showed someone your Instagram post, your most recent one. You were at a festival. You're in a lovely sort of almost Burberry type check brown shirt. Do you know this? Your head's turned this way.
Yes, it is a check shirt, and it's from Emu Studios, one of the Spanish ones. Okay. Another great brand.
Wow, he looks handsome.
They're really big right now.
Yeah.
I showed someone because I was like, this is my colleague.
Oh,
he's handsome.
That's
nice.
creepy.
Fashionable.
Well,
I'll take that off you, thanks.
yeah.
You can have it. I've got 2.
Well, I reckon we should wrap up the podcast, maybe take you shopping.
Yeah,
I think a great idea, but we'll loop you up after. But thank you so much, Emmanuel and David, for joining us. This has been super interesting. Yeah. And loved chatting about all things fashion.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.